all week long we've been talking about leadership and technical leadership, operations leadership, business leadership. And one of the things that we really want to kind of delve into a little this evening is what that dynamic looks like with this team. And you know, it's just a real treat to have you guys here because we can kind of plumb into that a little bit. And my first question to them is really, you know, what does that team look like? How does that team dynamic look and feel? That technical side, the CEO side, the CNO side, the CTO side. How does that play out in Comcast? And I think to make it fun, I'm gonna pick on the technical side first, and let Tony tell us a little bit about what you think about that dynamic inside of Comcast.
Well, I think I mean it's actually it's a great dynamic. I mean, you know, you talk about a team. I think we are a team, and we work pretty well. Neil plugs us in deeply into the strategy. He challenges us usually with dates, and so it's
and money.
2 weeks or less is good, by the way, for those of you. 2 weeks or less.
I mean, in fact,
less is better.
Yeah, but
the scoring system.
No, he's great with money. So his last one was, you know, we're cranking out a lot of apps, and he says, you know, this is working well. You've got a good platform. You can really crank the apps out. You know, what would it cost to double the output of the apps? And I said, well, I think, you know, let us come back to you. And I come back to him with, you know, this is how many people it would take. And, you know, I'm under the idea that he's going to cover it on the budget. And he says, good, why don't you find it in your budget and double the number? And so that's kind of the way things work.
Consistency is important, I find.
Yeah.
Faster, cheaper, better.
Yeah, but no, really, I think it works incredibly well. John and I have worked together now for 5 years. John was one of the first people I met even before I joined Comcast. He was one of the reasons why I joined Comcast. And together, John and I have done a great job of carving out what roles we're playing, yet knowing that we've got a huge amount of overlap where we have to collaborate, especially as we're trying to get products to move through the company. And I think we've done a great job. And and when I say that, is what I'm really thinking about is the people that work for us, because our people that work for us and do a lot of the work also do a wonderful job to work together and go across it. So I think it's a good dynamic. It's collaborative, but not collaborative to a fault, and yet it's a strong team.
Great. Well, so Tony's got the CTO hat on. Let's jump to the CNO hat.
Sure.
Don, tell us a
Yeah, I
little
mean,
about
just to piggyback on Tony's comments, I mean, one of the first things as Tony joined the company is we spent, you know, an awful lot of time together, you know, thinking about philosophies and how we work and how do we, you know, make sure that he and I are as aligned as we can be, because you really don't want to have technical organizations who are in a competition that isn't constructive, right? Their competition at a positive level is okay, but it needs to be constructive. So, you know, I think we have a lot in common with how we think about problems, how to solve problems, how to serve customers, how to integrate the business piece, and we really got that started early, and it's just continued through into our teams, which we're really proud of, that our teams see no error between Tony and I. We don't always agree. I think we agree on a lot of things, but you know, if we need to talk something through, we'll do it, you know, with facts, constructively. Those can be slightly uncomfortable moments, but I think once we call a play, we go back to our offices, our teams, whatever we're doing. I don't think there's any confusion about the play that we're calling. I think that's really helped the company. It's helped our customers. The relationship, you know, with Neil has been a great one as well, because a company like ours, like I'm sure most of you in the audience, isn't short of ideas. Right? So there's a lot of ideas, and I've even kidded Neil that sometimes just riding up in the elevator, people could generate 3 ideas, right? And the amount of technical thought that needs to go behind, okay, is that idea possible? How might you do that? And those kinds of things. And I think Neil has helped us really create focus on what's most important to the business, you know, what's most important to the company, and that's something that I think has really helped us in the last couple of years at Focus.
Yep.
Well, then now we could turn to you, Neil, CEO. You can call bullshit on any of this? Does this sound right? I mean,
Part about Neil being okay is, you know.
We're trying to suck up review times.
Yeah.
So this is.
No, I think what's great about these guys, there's a couple things. One is they're good business people. I mean, both these people, have run big organizations. They're good managing people. They understand the P&L. They understand the strategy, and they're great technologists. So they're very well-rounded, and I can go with them, and discuss a marketing issue or a new product issue or an engineering issue or a network issue, and they're, up to speed all the time. They can consider the consequences of any action across the breadth of the business. I think we talk every day, lots of times a day. I do my morning tour, and I can always depend on the engineers being
Making sure we're in at 7.
But and we just kind of think about short-term things and long-term things and implications. I think the relationship is one of it's built on trust. It's like John was saying. There's no air in between. I'll give them the lay of the land. Here's the lay of the land. Here's directionally where I think we need to go, and then it's just, you bounce it back and forth, and it's very collaborative. So I can't think of a tech team I've worked with where I've collaborated with more closely, and it's a pleasure. I love working with these guys.
So I mean, it all sounds wonderful, but I know at times, right? There's a lot of money at stake, customer commitment at stake. How does that partnership work out in those tricky times?
So I think it's just a matter of, there's trade-offs. There are always trade-offs in a business. And, we have a plan of record that we put together at the beginning of the year, and we go through, narrow the list down from God knows how many, 300-400 things we could do down to a narrower list. And even then, during the year, new things come in, and we have to drop things off the bottom. But it's a process where everyone gets to state their case, or everyone has a place at the table. They're expected to speak up. They have an opinion, and we jointly make decisions from there.
I mean, a big element of that, I think you even mentioned, is the trust, particularly in turbulent times, right? That trust becomes pretty important. How do you see that playing out between the three of you?
Well, I think we've all worked very hard to establish and earn each other's trust, and I think, on just about every decision that we make there, a key thing is to never violate anything that's going to break that trust. And so with Neil, it's making sure that he's informed, it's making sure that we do what we said we're going to do, and if all of a sudden we realize we're not going to for some reason, that we're pretty quick to tell him on it. And between John and I, it's really all about transparency. And so inside of it, I think John and I are very fixated on what's going to work best for the company. And we try and, within reason, I think be as missionary as possible in that, to where I've got groups of people I've moved over to work for John because that's the right place for him to be functional for this particular process. John's got people that move over and work for me, and we try and work through it. And we're very not into the turf side, but very much into the end-to-end, getting the product out the door, making sure that everything's working well. But I think the big thing there is going out of our way to not lose the trust of a colleague.
And I think, the part that demonstrates that, which is quite interesting on the trust part, is it's interesting whether the folks are in my organization and report to me or Tony's. We can drop them a BlackBerry or anything, and they're as responsive regardless of the reporting structure. And I think that speaks volumes about our teams. On the trust side with the business, with Neil, I think everybody in the audience would agree. Some of the stuff that we all do collectively, right? We have technology partners in the audience who supply things to us, other cable companies and things. And some of the stuff we do is really hard. And it's about establishing the trust that Tony talked about, but then having a track record where hopefully more often than not, right, the things that you say or the team's going to support you in getting it done. And I think that's where the talent, right, a lot of you in the room here who work for companies, you're a part of that talent pool that helps make that happen. That builds the earned credibility of trust over time and keeps it.
Yep. One thing, too, is, of course, when Neil came in, being an ex-Navy SEAL, he made John and I take polygraphs and a few other things. It was kind of...
You guys really work that well together?
It was kind of like Meet the Fockers, but I don't know. It was, other than that, it's been pretty good.
We're not going to tell you what the questions were.
We've got a lot of Adam Sandlers here. No, I think the other thing that works well is we each carry our own load. In any particular situation, there's activities, things that I've got to do and Tony and John have to do, and we divide up the work, and we meet at the end of the day and update each other. But there's different responsibilities. We're clear on who's doing what, and we all have to carry our own weight.
Yeah.
I mean, you've put together this incredible technical team. When you think about leadership, Neil, I mean, how do you develop technical leadership? I guess maybe what is it, and how do you develop it?
I mean, I think it's different things to different people. For me, it's about building the team to developing the skills that can, so you can deliver technical leadership. I think you have to build platforms in order to, be able to do a lot of things. I think it's about innovation, great service, continuing to refine the product, and I think it's also about not staying focused on inside your boundaries. I think it's always kind of looking to the outside and comparing yourself against different models or business models or other companies, and always kind of assuming that there's other things going on and new trends, and you have to be able to look at those and figure out how they may apply to your business.
John, what do you think for your own organization?
Yep. So, I mean, Tony and I have talked about this for a long time, and together we even kicked off an internal program at Comcast with Comcast University around developing technical leadership. I think it's a special skill to have folks who bring all the leadership traits together: communications, leading people, strategic thinking, all the things you'd find in typical leadership. But given that we're very much a technology-powered business, like all of you in the audience here, how do you bring some technical leadership pieces around innovation, like Neil said, around, what are emerging shifts in technology that you need to be thinking about now, and how do you develop those? How do you bring that along with your technology partners? How might that play into a service? So I think bringing together all of the attributes of a curriculum around leadership and technology is something that is an important skill, and it's actually a rare one, right, to find. There are a lot of pure technologists. I think there's a lot of pure leaders. To bring those two things together is really special.
One of the things I think we're trying to do, and we've been working on, is looking further down the road, and because I think it helps us execute better on projects that are in course, and also, it gets the planning ahead. I mean, the network planning and the platform planning, and even with the the apps and things like that, it's looking, setting the sights, not a year ahead, but 18 months, 2 years, 3 years.
Yep. No, I think, so there's a lot on just the platform and what we're doing there and the roadmaps, but I think the other thing that we've done well as an industry, and I think Comcast has done particularly well, is we've attracted a lot of good talent, and we've got just, whether it's in the field, whether it's in Philadelphia, whether it's in our offices in Silicon Valley, we've went out of our way to attract good talent, and then I think the next piece is trying to create an environment where to keep that talent happy.
I'm not saying that are, imminent threats, but when you kind of think about that litany of the Facebook, Netflix, Google, Apple, I mean, which ones do you go, well, that's kind of interesting, hey, we need to...
I think they're all interesting, and and we worry about all of them for different reasons, but the ones that are equally as interesting are those that don't have those names, and that come up overnight, whether it's Nimble TV, whether it's Aereo, whether it's one of those. And it's really the companies that are threading 2 or 3 different ideas together that intersect with regulatory, intersect with business, and intersect with technological capability. I don't know who it is, but we certainly will have people continuing trying to figure out how to make money in our business, sometimes at our expense, sometimes with us. So.
I think the environment's also, I think there are opportunities for, frenemies or co-opetitions, whatever you want to call them. I think that, some of you think about the social aspect of TV. There's, how could that, how could you leverage a Facebook to bring that alive? Or, Apple, it's a terrific UI, and how might that play? I mean, we did a Spectrum Co. Together with some other players in the industry, a deal with Verizon Wireless, and so I think there are those opportunities that may be out there, and I think it's thinking about them as a potential competitor, but also thinking about is there a consumer value add here that 1 and 1 might make 3.
Yeah, I mean, Apple's been good for this industry so far, right? And I mean, they've done a lot for us, bringing us the tablet, which is doing a lot of things. We're delivering a lot of content to it, using it for a lot of things across the industry. It's been good, and it's we're basking a little bit in the halo of some of their products that we are putting into ours, and just provided that doesn't go too far, we're pretty happy with it. So.
I mean, John, you had mentioned that consumerization, and you're hinting at that also, Tony. I mean, you guys have always lived in a consumer world. It's, of course, consumerization's upending all kinds of industries.
Yeah.
CEO of SAP was here at lunch today, and he was telling the students, just what a huge impact that is having on their business, particularly around mobility.
Yeah.
And mobility is a big one for you guys, the anywhere, anytime kind of access. How do you see that evolving, that anywhere, anytime? John, you want to?
Sure. I mean, I think this is something that we've been talking about for a while in our company, right? Because time shifting, device shifting, and location shifting has been a part of our investment strategy. Some of the platforms that we've invested in were to create that enablement. We didn't know exactly when, where, and how, and who, but I think mobility has been a part of the strategy for a long, long time. So this is an area where we're paying a lot of attention to consumers and the kinds of things that we see they expect in the marketplace, and then how do you line the whole thing up? You got to line up the platforms and technology. There's rights issues. There's creating an experience to do that. So I think it's an important part of paying attention to your customer and being ready, right, for the kinds of turns that might be made with consumer adoption.
And I think it can take on different forms. I mean, the Wi-Fi, which many people here are building out, and there's some cooperation in the standards within the industry. I mean, Wi-Fi's, a form of mobility. Apps are a form of mobility. Second screen apps, tablets. So I think it comes in different forms, and I think that it's going to be, I mean, let's face it, people don't want to always be tethered. So I think it's going to increasingly become if you look at the, spectrum, the consumption on the spectrum and the bandwidth necessities, and at our backhaul business, it's indicative that there's going to be more and more consumption in a mobile manner.
Yeah, I mean, we've recognized this for a long time as an industry, and it's actually interesting because it's probably 4 or 5 years ago that the entire industry recognized that the consumer demand for portability, or the consumer desire for portability and mobility, was big. Back then, we thought 4 or 5 years ago you maybe had to own a wireless company to do it, and that gave a lot of people angst as you tried to figure it out. I think it's pretty clear today to recognize that there's a number of ways of playing in it. One is Wi-Fi, other is the partnership that the industry is doing with some of the wireless carriers, and the fact that over the top, and that we can deliver tons of our applications, even our voice service today, you can make over a Wi-Fi phone and intercept your home phone call and things like that. So I think there's a number of ways of playing in it, and unleashing the content and getting that into these portable devices is a big deal. And but we can do that without owning a wireless company, so I think that's the good news.
So if I was going to get you to speculate a little bit, I mean, a lot of the excitement at the Consumer Products Show this year was around the two-screen kinds of experiences. Is that second screen social, or is that second screen different content? And in either case, is there a good way to monetize it for you?
I think that the second screen's got a whole bunch of uses, and then there's a whole bunch of uses that we don't know yet. And the second screen used to be a laptop that got hot in people's laps and heavy, and that was kind of interesting. But the tablet's really given something for people to do. And so I think the second screen is, for us, it's a great discovery device, it's a great control device, and it's a great device for us to deliver content to. As far as it doing things synchronized with the television content, we've played with that for a long time, we'll continue to. And while we've got certain things that we think are interesting, it's a little unclear. A lot of people pick up the tablet, do what they want, they put it down, they want to watch TV. They don't want to necessarily be going back and forth unless it's something, high engagement like sports, and some of those types of things have got possibilities. But we're working on a lot of different things for it on the second screen, but more as a discovery, a control, and and the content on it. And there might be a little bit, and there's been a lot of things that have been played with on advertising and other things to where you trigger other events. But I don't know if anybody's totally cracked the code on program synchronous stuff to the second screen.
And I think the monetization is in, letting people discover the content that they already have. I think, if you ask a lot of customers, they don't know everything they get. They feel they're not getting good value, and it's because they don't recognize everything they have. So I think that's the great, right now anyway, the great utilization of the tool is to help them discover and explore the content that's out there.
We've been talking about leadership all week and thinking about it in lots of different ways, down to very kind of personal ways. And I'm curious for your own careers. I didn't spend a lot of time introducing up front because it's kind of inside baseball here tonight, and we all know each other. But when you think about your own career and a leadership lesson that you learned along the way that you might want to pass along to these guys and gals, what would it be?
Tony?
Go ahead.
I'll start. These guys
I think I've learned a lot of lessons. Some of them the hard way, some of them the easy way. But I mean, one of them is having solid staff and solid teams under you is key. And one of the things that I use a lot is that you cannot manage that you don't understand. And so I make sure that the people we get in the right places clearly understand what it is that they're managing, and that they're not, being a generalist and an MBA is a good thing, but if you're putting them into a software development environment, they should have a good understanding of software development, because it's just too hard to manage it if you don't understand it. So I think the lesson that I've learned is, lots of good people can play in lots of different roles, but having somebody who, they don't have to be the experts in that area, but they do have to understand it well enough to manage it. And if you don't, it just creates so much friction in the company and so many large meetings, because they have to haul in 100 people to when you ask them to do something versus a much smaller that they can do. So I think that would be the one thing I'd hold up.
I guess the leadership lesson that I would share is going back 12 years. I was a co-founder of a startup company before the first .com explosion in 2001. And it was high energy, the top tier VCs, all of those things, and we had the company going and multi-million-dollar contracts with customers, but it was an infrastructure company, so we needed 3-4 rounds to get to cash flow positive. Well, we all know what happened in 2001, right? The capital just shut off. And it wasn't personal at that point about the company. There just was lots of companies that needed capital and they weren't going to get any. And I would say the leadership lesson that I learned through that is, leading is challenging, but if you're going to work through the tough times, that's real leadership. The things that happen at the toughest times, I think you learn a lot about your colleagues, your peers, how to navigate that. And as we went through that and being personally involved, I was really proud of the fact that the day we locked the door out of money, the same guys who co-founded the company with me were standing there with me, right? There wasn't a lot of blow-ups and the whole thing. So you really learn a lot about people through that process. And I also learned a ton, right, about what it means to have the value of a dollar. When you go back to some of the business stuff that we do supporting Neil in the business, how important is that? How you take that dollar in the corporation, apply that in a way that it's a multiplier. How to deal with companies who might not be in the best financial shape, right? So there was a lot of learned. At that time, it was painful. But you look back, there was an awful lot of stuff learned.
So I learned about everything I know of leadership in my first job out of school in the military. And I learned it really fast. But one is, it's all about the team. When I think about the business and think about direction and how we're going to get from here to there, the team has to get there, and everybody's got to carry their load. And but one component of the business getting there without the rest of the business doesn't work. Second is you lead from in front. You have to set an example. You have to be playing to win all the time, and that's kind of the third one, which is you play to win. I'm not a believer in let's do it just good enough to get by, or I don't play to tie. I never got T-ball. But we're, as an industry, we're out there to win, and I have great faith in the industry, and all the people. I look around the room here, and there's just a ton of talent and skill and capability in the room, and I have no doubts that we're out to win.